Hey, it's Derek Depker here. In this video, you're going to learn how you can do the impossible. Literally, things that were impossible will become possible when you embrace this process that you're about to discover. And what it means is you can solve some of the biggest problems and challenges that you have in your life. You'll be able to tap in to your inner creative genius. I don't mean that as a figure of speech. I mean, you really will learn how to tap into the most creative parts of your brain based on some of the latest research in neuroscience. And for those who are entrepreneurial and you'd like to see some really practical, tangible benefits, I can say that for myself, this process and this way of thinking has enabled me to, very directly, I can look back and say it helped with ideas that generated tens of thousands of dollars in income. And it certainly makes life just a lot easier when you understand this. So, 4 key things to this. The first two keys are really frames. To use neuro-linguistic programming terminology, you have frames, or in psychology, you could just call it attitudes that you have, that you adopt. And if you don't have these frames of mind, these attitudes, then it's impossible to even light up the neurology in your brain to do what's gonna, what I'm gonna share with you in a couple minutes. So the first thing, if you don't get this attitude, the people who don't have this, they're some of the most miserable people in the world. They are constantly complaining, they're stressed out, and life is way harder than it needs to be for them. And the people who do adopt this attitude, which is probably more uncommon than common, they find that they're more resilient. They have greater ease in life, and they're more creative. And it's ideas that go back thousands of years. In fact, the Stoics talk about this very first idea. And Ryan Holiday, I think, sums it up perfectly with his book title, The Obstacle is the Way. So the first attitude is rejoicing not only in what's easy, but rejoicing in what's hard, rejoicing in what's challenging. And for me, I find it helpful to adopt, it's like a game, right? Now, maybe not everything in life is comparable to a game, but certainly some challenges can be like a game, and you go, it's a mystery, or it's a puzzle, or it's a challenge to be solved, and then it becomes fun rather than a burden. It becomes something that you can embrace as an opportunity. And I'll give a practical example of how this plays out. For working with many authors, what's happened in self-publishing is it's become so easy to self-publish a book that on one hand it's great, because it means if you want to self-publish a book, you have a lot more opportunity now, and there's way less obstacles to self-publishing. But on the other hand, there's now so many people who are self-publishing that it creates this new challenge that the market becomes flooded, and it becomes harder to stand apart. So there's these double-edged swords that are constantly taking place. You see, when it was more challenging to publish a book, it actually weeded out a lot of the competition. And that means if you were willing to go through those extra steps, if you were willing to embrace that challenge, then it was a great opportunity. So the obstacle is the way. So how does this apply now? Well, again, with authors, I find that the audiobook marketplace, for instance, not as many authors are into it because there's still a few more, slight hurdles to getting into it, which I love because it's like now there's less authors doing it, but there's still a great opportunity there. The obstacles, even as small and insignificant as they are, it keeps away the masses. Okay, so just practically speaking, you can see how when there are things that are challenging or more difficult, that's actually an incredible opportunity if you are willing to embrace those challenges. And it's okay if you're not. There's plenty of challenges I don't want to take on. I don't want to learn all about Facebook ads. I could, but I'm like, I'll let someone else solve that, handle that challenge. The idea is for the other challenges that I do want to embrace and that you're willing to embrace, that's a great opportunity. So again, practically speaking, watch out for any complaining. Oh, it's tough. Things are getting harder, blah, blah, blah. Instead, go, things are tough. Rules have changed. The world is changing. Whatever it is, there's an opportunity in that when you rejoice in it. And now you light up your brain to be willing to embrace these next few keys, these next few steps. The second thing is, how do you do the impossible? Well, first of all, you need to believe that the impossible is possible. You got to believe the impossible is possible. Now, this isn't about a pep talk and saying just believe. If you're very logical about this, like I tend to be logical, so if you hear a paradoxical statement or something that's contradictory, you might go, okay, well, how do you believe the impossible is possible? Well, you look at evidence. You look at how it is logical to see that the impossible is possible. So let's look at this practically. Was there a point in time where it was impossible for people to fly? Yes. Was there a point in time where it was impossible for people to communicate with someone on the other side of the planet in almost an instant? Yes, it was impossible, but now it's possible. In fact, every evolution, every technological advancement that we make as human beings, there are so many things that were impossible that are now possible thanks to the creative human mind, thanks to creativity. So this is really about tapping into creativity and innovation to make the impossible possible. Just because it's impossible now doesn't mean it needs to be impossible tomorrow. And so you have to adopt this belief. And I'm going to share with you two really practical examples, again, for authors, so that's mostly who I work with, about how this actually played out. So once you believe the impossible could be possible, this is what's called adopting an as-if frame. If it were possible, how might I be able to do it? Or how might it be possible? If it were possible, what might need to be created? Or what technology or what resources or what means might make this possible? Okay? So one of the challenges that I had was I wanted to record audiobooks in my own apartment. And, first actually I just wanted to record audiobooks. And I thought, well, I can't do it because this was when I was living in a big open loft. And just the recording quality would not be good. The ceilings are too high, you get all this echo, even applying some effects wasn't enough. So I go, okay, basically my options are I could go to a recording studio or hire someone else to do it. But I got this nagging thing in my brain where I go, but wait a second, what if it were possible, right? And that's a great question. What if it were possible to do it in that current apartment? So I'm in this apartment, I'm thinking, okay, but if it were possible, what might I do? So that's the question. If it were possible, and then you go, the third key is you want to define, well, what's the purpose of this and what are the boundaries? Okay, now I won't have time to really go deep into that, but I believe that if you follow these next two things, understanding the greater purpose and the boundaries of the problem, really defining what the problem is, and then the fourth key is allowing your intuition to solve it over a period of time. You cultivate it, you think about it, and then you let your intuition solve it. Okay? So it's not enough to just ask yourself this question, you got to sit with it. If it were possible. So what's the actual issue here? So I define the boundaries of the problem. And I go, okay, well, the ceilings are too high, and the walls are too wide, and I'm in too much of an open space. And so I was sitting with it for a couple weeks and putting a microphone in a box and trying these different things. And even recording under my staircase, which actually did kind of work. Then eventually, by just sitting with it, allowing your creative intuition to come up with solutions, at some point, I don't know what exactly preceded it, I had this idea like, okay, holding an umbrella, because I need to lower the ceiling, which is impossible. But again, think about this imagination going, it's impossible to lower the ceiling, but if it were possible, what would that be like? So not literally lowering the ceiling, but wait, an umbrella. An umbrella could be overhead. And my mind started, the wheels started turning. I thought, okay, a patio umbrella sitting next to my computer and drape a blanket, a thick comforter over top of it. I tested it out and it worked perfectly. Okay, now again, it took a couple weeks to come up with that, but I was sitting there, I go, no, I know there's a way. There's got to be a way. Again, another good frame. There's got to be a way. It's got to be possible. And I came up with that solution. I've shared it with thousands of authors now to help them if they want to record their own audiobook, if you want to record anything at home. Still use it. Even though I'm in not a loft anymore, I still love that technique. Here's another example of impossible becoming possible. It's a paradoxical question. And that is, so Amazon, you're not supposed to incentivize reviews on Amazon. You can't give someone a reward for leaving a review on Amazon for books. Okay. So for many authors, they would go, oh, it's impossible, and that's just it. Some authors are going to complain about how tough it is to get reviews. Some authors are just going to go on and do some other things, other tactics. I go, okay, but if it were possible to incentivize leaving reviews, how could I incentivize leaving reviews without incentivizing leaving reviews? Again, it's a contradictory or paradoxical question, but just think about that. I mean, what if you really embrace that? And I sat with it, and I kind of defined the boundaries. I go, I can't actually give someone a prize or incentive for leaving a review, but why is it that I would? Well, I want them to be motivated. I want them to feel like they're getting something out of sharing their feedback. I want them to feel like it's worthwhile for them to read the book. What I eventually came up with is a strategy where I say I can incentivize someone to leave a review off of Amazon. I can incentivize someone to fill out a survey, to fill out a questionnaire. What'd you love about the book? What would you say to a friend? So they fill out the survey. They get a bonus for doing that. So now it's all within terms of service. And then I just added a step, and then I go, okay, if they left great feedback, would you be willing to share this as a review on Amazon? Copy and paste what you said here. Now there's no incentive for doing that. That's just of their own free will. And so it's just now a two-step process, right? They fill out the questionnaire, they left great feedback. Hey, would you be willing to take 10 seconds to copy and paste what you wrote here as a review on Amazon? Here's the link. And it worked for virtually every single person who went through that process. So what was I able to do? I was able to incentivize people to leave a review without actually technically incentivizing them to leave a review. Now, the idea of this, I'm just sharing a couple personal examples. I'm not necessarily the most creative thinker in the world. What happened is I just learned to embrace this process. I was taught these frames and these attitudes, and I practiced it, and eventually I came up with ideas. And the reason I feel inspired to share this with you is I believe that when you adopt this way of thinking, when you adopt these frames and these questions and these attitudes, your own creative genius will come forth, and you'll come up with solutions to some of your challenges, some of your issues, some of the things that seemed impossible before will become possible. Because it's not about someone being special, it's not about me being special, it's not about the inventors of the world being special, it's about who we are as human beings. We can't help but evolve and do things that are possible, in this day and age that were impossible 10 years ago or 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. It's ingrained in me and in you to have this creative, innovative power within us. You can check out a book, Neurowisdom, which shows actually the way the brain goes back and forth between a very focused problem-solving type of approach, and then as that kind of, runs its course, then it switches to this very creative way of thinking where it finds these interconnected ideas and can go back and forth. So you can train yourself to do this. And when you do, again, you'll make the impossible possible. You'll come up with solutions to your biggest challenges, and you could also potentially make a lot more money if that's where you put your energy into. So quick recap, 4 keys. You want to love and embrace and rejoice in what's hard as well as what's easy. Right? See the benefits of things being easy, also see the benefits of things that are challenging. Second thing is believe it's possible. Again, the practical solution is just because it's impossible now doesn't mean it has to remain impossible. It could be possible tomorrow or in an hour or in 5 minutes if you just have the right idea, the right solution. The third thing is you want to understand what the real problem is and what the purpose is of solving it. What's the higher purpose? It was impossible for human beings to flap our arms and fly, but we go, well, if we really just need to get up in the air and get from point A to point B, just because we can't flap our arms like a bird can flap their wings doesn't mean we can't create something else to accomplish the same purpose. Fourth thing is give it some time. Let your intuition and your cultivate this time for the seed that's planted in your mind to grow, because again, many of the solutions it took sitting with for sometimes weeks or maybe over a month at a time before the breakthrough happened. When you do this, when you embrace this whole process, and even just embracing the attitude that the impossible is possible, and ask yourself, if it were possible, how could I do it? You'll find yourself making some of the biggest breakthroughs you've ever made in your life. Love to hear your comments and what this inspires for you. Take care.